One. Good night, everyone. This is the January 19th Public Works Committee meeting in conjunction with the Traffic, Parking, and Transportation Committee. Let me start out with our motion. Well, I guess I did do the roll call for Public Works, and then I will let Chairman O'Connell do the roll call for Transportation, Parking. Council Lady Henderson, are you present?
I see her.
Yeah, I see her too.
Here, sorry, here.
Thank you. Council Lady Allen, I just heard you.
Here.
Council Lady Benedict.
Present.
Vice Chair, Councilmember Bradford. Councilmember Bradford. Council Lady Evans. Council Lady Evans. Councilmember Gamble.
Present.
Councilmember Hall. Councilmember Hall. Council Lady Hurd, I think I saw you.
Yes, I'm here.
Councilmember Nash present. Councilmember O'Connell. Chairman O'Connell. Councilmember Oden.
Here, Chair.
And Councilmember Young.
Here, excuse me.
Oh, okay. One more time for Councilman Bradford. Councilmember Evans. Councilmember Hall. Councilmember O'Connell. Council Lady Vertier, as Vice Chair of Traffic and Parking, do you want to do a roll call? Are you present? Well, I guess we'll just do Public Works for the moment. I'll go, we share, let me do the motion. Pursuant to Governor Lee's executive order number 71 regarding electronic meetings, I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Do I have a second?
Second.
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 Okay, should we do a roll call? Council Lady Henderson.
Yes.
Council Lady Allen.
Yes.
Council Lady Benedict.
Yes.
Council Lady Gamble.
Yes.
Council Lady Hurt.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Councilman Roten.
Aye.
And last but not least, Councilmember Young.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Okay. I have 8-4, 0 against. The chair does not have a report. Are there any staff members on this call that had something they want to share with the meeting? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. That's apparently not. I don't know of any guests. Do we have anybody from administration or anything who wants to introduce anybody? Going once, going twice, native. I am going to go past 2021-594 since that is on both the traffic and parking agenda and Public Works agenda. And
Chair, I do see Councilmember O'Connell in the list.
Councilmember O'Connell, have you come back to us?
Yes, I'm sorry. In the meeting transition, I got bumped and did not get back on in time to catch the early part.
Okay, understand. Since we're doing this
Councilmember
jointly, Public Works has done their roll call and we've done the motion to, for the governor's executive order. Do you want to do a roll call of your members?
To do that. I will run through this. I will look for, let's see, I'm going to assume that you are going to be present for this portion of the meeting as well.
Yes.
Do we have Ms. Johnston is probably in rules. Mr. Parker, I see on the list.
I'm here.
All right, Mr. Cash, I see you on the list. Are you here?
I'm here.
And then did Ms. Vercher stick around? If not, we've got a quorum nonetheless. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That gives us 4 members that we need to conduct the meeting.
Okay. I have, I guess, a question for Mr. Cooper. Since 594 is on both our agendas, can we do kind of a joint committee meeting on this? And,
Yes, sir.
Vote it out? Okay. Councilmember O'Connell, I'm going to let you take this one first, if you wish.
Sure. Give me just 1 second to get to the right agenda item. So I guess I can speak to this. Well, let's just get, I guess let's get a motion as one of the chairs. Well, actually, let me do a point of order first. Mr. Cooper, based on the way we are structured here, each committee will need to do its own roll call on the bill properly, right? Since
That's
we're in a
correct.
joint.
If you could read the caption and then get a motion in traffic and parking and a motion in public works at the same time, and then proceed and take 2 votes.
Okay. All right.
I'll move approval for Public Works. This is Councilmember Allen.
All right, great.
Second.
And then I guess, Mr. Cooper, do you have a preference as to whether or not Public Works votes and then Traffic and Parking picks it up? I think that makes more sense to me than having 2 open votes.
That's fine. That's the way I envisioned it, but it could go however you want.
Well, all right. Then, Mr. Nash, your committee members are ready to go. So I guess you all can roll call that one and we'll follow suit right after.
John, we have 2 sets of amendments. Do we need to discuss those first before passing the motion?
Yeah,
I think, correct. Yes.
I'd like to move Amendment 1.
Council Lady Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to move Amendment 1, which is simply a recital that explains that this will save lives, and I think that's an important reason to put into the bill.
I guess I'm on the committee as well, so I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would just like to thank Councilmember Allen for that amendment. This is, as someone who has worked specifically on this policy for years now, the entire motivating factor here has been about safety for all users of the roadway. It actually is going to wind up being safer for motorists as well, but it is especially safe for pedestrians who we have not protected sufficiently, frankly, based on the number of pedestrian deaths we are seeing in Nashville at this point. So this is an excellent recital addition, and I encourage colleagues to support it.
Thank you.
The chair would agree. I was surprised when I saw some of the studies how exponentially serious injury and death go down just by a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit change. That said, there's the scofflaws are going to be the scofflaws, but generally speaking, overall, hopefully this will help reduce any serious injury by those folks who innocently have some accident. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, let's see if we have to do roll call. Council Member Henderson.
Aye.
Council Member Allen.
Aye.
Councilmember Benedict,
Aye.
Councilmember Gamble,
Aye.
Councilmember Hurt.
Aye.
Councilmember Nash.
Votes aye. Councilmember Roten
Aye.
and Councilmember Young.
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? Going once, going twice?
Councilmember Nash, this is Councilmember Bradford.
Yes,
I vote aye.
vote aye. Welcome aboard.
O'Connell votes aye.
Oh, sorry. Got you down now. Thank you. So that's 10-4, 0 against. And the amendment passes. We have a second amendment.
I'll move that one, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
So moved.
Second.
And Mr. Chair, I can describe this one. This was actually recommended by Public Works at the Traffic and Parking Commission at our most recent meeting. It basically just adds some clarification of the applicability regarding the Urban Services District. I would classify it as a housekeeping amendment unless Mr. Cooper thinks it needs further clarification.
No, I think housekeeping is a good description.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment?
Yes, I have a question. This is Councilman Cash. I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilman Cash.
So I was at the Traffic and Parking Commission meeting and did hear the Public Works suggestion. I see something on this amendment about like it has the 25 miles per hour in the urban services and 30 miles in other parts. And then it jumps to one that says 55. I guess my question is, do we not have any speed limits in between 30 and 55? And I guess go ahead.
So the language you're seeing there is a restatement of what the existing code is. It was just to make sure that something didn't get deleted by making that change. But Public Works can speak to that further. But that language is not changing.
Okay, thanks. That's really all I needed to know.
Yeah, I don't
Anybody
know, Mr.
else?
Chair, if we have somebody from Public Works, but my understanding was the content of the amendment is to clean up the that referred to in any urban district, and that's really the primary intent of it.
Okay. Anybody from Public Works want to add anything? I guess not.
I see Teresa Costonas on the call. I don't know if she wants to add anything clarifying on Public Works' behalf.
Councilman, this is Jim Snyder. I was going to recommend maybe Jeff Hammond or Terry, either one of those, if they would like to add anything to the discussion. Thank you.
I don't know that I have anything to add. I do think that the characterization from Mr. Cooper and Mr. O'Connell have been accurate.
Thank you. Mr. Hammond, did you want to add anything?
It is a good comment. It is something that we have looked at, and this amendment was an attempt to clarify some of that. I will admit it probably doesn't go all the way to fixing some of this holdover language from the existing code. However, I think it works just fine with it the way it is. I think most of us will recognize there aren't many 55-mile-an-hour speeds on local roads anywhere left in the county, but that is a holdover, and our intent was to clarify this language in order to make it apply only to local streets within the urban services district.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Ms. Evans.
Thank you. I may have missed some of the conversation on this just because I just joined from Rules Committee, but and I know Mr. Hammond and I have exchanged email specifically related to the GSD's eventual, inclusion maybe into speed limit reduction. I know we can go down the path of individually working with neighborhoods and submitting through traffic commission to be able to get speed limits reduced. But is the advocacy for this eventually going to lead to GSD having the same consideration? Thank you.
Ms. Costones, Mr. Hammond?
I'll be glad to answer that. Thank you for the question. It's possible. I think where we have begun in addressing some of the speeding issues in the urban services district, primarily because it is these urban areas that are more suitable to a lower speed limit. That is, where we're not relying on enforcement or even just the signs to achieve a lower speed, but rather the urban characteristics of the road in the form of land use, property setbacks, traffic volumes, bicycle and pedestrian volumes. All of those things lead us towards having more success of actually achieving lower speeds and safer travel in the urban services district. That does not at all mean that there aren't areas in the general services district that it's not suitable for as well. And we foresee certainly in the future an opportunity to extend into those areas. The trick there is, though, is to try and limit that into streets where we think we can actually achieve that. And so when we get out to further out areas where we don't have those urban characteristics, where it is more of an urban or a low-density suburban area, we don't have those same expectations for a lower speed. And so using the urban services district is not perfect. It's a surrogate, but we think it's one that it's the best jurisdictional boundary, I suppose, that we have right now to achieve that.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that explanation. I think that the biggest concern that I have, and I'm very pro lowering the speed limit for the USD, and I think it's a really good idea. I think the kind of the flip side of that in my area is because I do have so many neighborhoods that I talk to about speeding issues, and unfortunately they can't change the design of some of these legacy neighborhoods that have been around, for 30 years. But it's just something to consider going forward because I think it makes, since I represent only GSD, I hear it a lot out here, and I imagine that people that have USD and GSD neighborhoods in the same district will hear about it more from maybe their GSD neighborhoods, that it feels like we could be making more of an impact at the same time, or at least have a plan for the GSD neighborhoods as opposed to going through these onesie twosie kind of one-offs through traffic and parking, because it feels like it makes the effort in the GSD areas just more difficult. So I'm being very curmudgeonly about this. I'm very pro, what the bill is trying to achieve, but also trying to balance the consideration of why aren't we getting it from residents out here too. So thank you very much for the information.
Thank you, Council Lady Vercher, and then Council Lady Henderson.
Yeah, I was just wanted to say that I'm on the meeting.
Council Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I heartily support this legislation. I think I ran for office on a Safe Streets platform about 5 years ago talking about this. I know Councilman O'Connell, Council Lady Allen as well. So I appreciate everybody's work and staff's work as well. Like Council Lady Evans, I do serve a big section of the GSD. Most of my GSD is in satellite cities, but I do have some metro GSD as well. And so I appreciate staff kind of coordinating with me where we have a little bit of that convergence, right, where you have a Metro USD street that's going to hit a satellite city in the GSD and how that works. But to Council Lady Evans' point, I do hope that staff will be kind of in the spirit of traffic calming and neighborhood infrastructure and some of the things we're trying to deliver in the city, that rather than kind of the one-off, we will be strategic in particular neighborhoods. I don't know, Council Lady Evans, if I've joked with you or Councilman Syracuse, but, you know, up there in Donaldson and around in some of the suburban contexts, it's like you could land an aircraft on some of those streets. They are so wide. The turning radiuses are really huge, and they're neighborhood streets, but people, you know, they're designed for people to drive fast. And so to Mr. Hammond's point, kind of lowering that number on the sign, it doesn't really feel right because the road is so wide or potentially straight or otherwise. But I think through our traffic calming program, so what do we have now, y'all, like 180 kind of streets and neighborhoods that have applied. At present funding, we can only deliver 25 of those per year. Let's all, I think, as a committee, in the same spirit of this legislation, I want to bring kind of more funding in CSP for traffic calming and for operational staff to support that program, so that in those suburban areas like Council Lady Evans that are GSD, they can be kind of taken more holistically and said, okay, well, your right away or your street widths are this, and so we're going to do this treatment all over the whole kind of neighborhood, like those logical chunks. And so, Council Lady Evans, I hear you, and I think let's continue as a committee to work with staff so we can deliver that for our GSD areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady Henderson. Anyone else? Yes, I see Council Lady Gamble.
Thank you, Chair. And I also want to thank the sponsor, Councilmember Allen, for bringing forth this legislation. I, too, have had a lot of complaints from the community about speeding on major arteries. And I also support and second comments made by Councilmember Evans and Henderson, and adding to that explanation for a need for some coordination in this. I have a street, Brick Church Pike, in my district that will fall partly in the USD and partly in the GSD, and that entire street needs to fall within this legislation. So trying to figure out how to coordinate that USD GSD speed limit issue will be something that we need to look at. So I thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow on, I think Councilmember Evans and to some extent Councilmember Henderson. So one of the most common requests we see at the Traffic and Parking Commission is speed limit reduction requests. I think there's a benefit of this bill, and then there's looking forward to the future that would, I think, better satisfy Councilmember Evans and anybody who is not within the USD. But this will immediately assist the many neighborhoods that have come to the Traffic and Parking Commission, typically with the support of their district council member, to seek to lower the background speed limit to 25 miles per hour. So I think this is something many people have been working on for years. It is a safety-focused recommendation, as multiple members have alluded to tonight, and I am excited to pass it and then continue to do future work.
Thank you, Chairman O'Connell. Council Lady Evans, is that an old hand or a new hand?
It's a new hand.
Okay.
Thank you. My hand's new. The rest of me is not. But I actually just wanted to, y'all just, the whole conversation, I appreciate the conversation from everybody and the feedback. I think one thing that just immediately popped into my mind, and it's not specific to this legislation, but the idea of looking at areas kind of holistically related to speed reduction is, I know Councilwoman Johnston had done or, gotten some special traffic calming, like testing in her district with paint and some things like that. And it's since it's not related to the conversation this evening, I just wanted to put it out there that it would be nice to have a future conversation related to traffic calming and some new techniques and kind of what the results of Councilwoman Johnston's experiment in her district was, because that might be something longer term. And going back to Councilman O'Connell as far as like how we look forward to reducing speed in neighborhoods. So anyway, just kind of putting it on your radar, Chairman Nash. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, I'll do too.
Chairman Nash, I'm here.
Cover Roden, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you just didn't see my hand. I think the one thing that a lot of folks don't realize, so I have half urban services, half general services, and I had a whole lot of land when I took office that was not developed. Everything that is developed now in my district has very narrow streets. We have side parking, sidewalks, and every single one of those neighborhoods has 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. How they get those 25-mile-an-hour speed limits in the GSD, I don't really know, but that's how it's implemented, is with 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. So the other folks in the GSD, as Councilmember Henderson said, I've got streets that are 2 miles long that you can see from one end to the other, and they're as wide as the Indy 500. And those folks will never in a million years want to have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on those roads. But everybody that cuts off of those roads wants the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit because they see it in these other neighborhoods and they know it slows it down and helps the kids who are out playing and that type of thing. So I don't know what we're going to do about those types of neighborhoods that were basically just designed poorly. I don't know how you're ever going to get some of those folks to actually agree that a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is good on some of those roads. But as Councilmember Evans said, we really need out in the GSD for some of those older neighborhoods to start looking at slowing some of these folks down. We see some really bad accidents in some of these older neighborhoods with some high speeds, and they really shouldn't be going that fast. And you get more calls about speeders than anything else, and there's nothing you can do anything about. But it's just in those old neighborhoods, they just were not designed to slow traffic down. And I appreciate Councilmember Henderson and all the work she's done on this, and Councilmember O'Connell as well. So thank you, Chair, for letting me say that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman Roden. Anybody else here? I don't. Brother Cash, is that an old hand or a new hand?
It is a new hand, but I want to speak on the bill overall. So I don't know if we want to take care of the amendments first and then if I could have an opportunity after we do that to speak to the bill as a whole.
Okay, I suggest we take care of the amendment first.
We've got one housekeeping one to still do.
A third amendment?
No, I think if Mr. Cooper can correct me, I believe we voted on the first one. I don't know that we took a vote on the second one.
We have not. Okay, Public Works, go first, if that's all right. This is on Amendment 2 now. Council Lady Henderson?
Aye.
Council Lady Allen?
Aye.
Council Lady Benedict?
Aye.
Councilman Bradford?
Aye.
Councilmember Evans?
Aye.
Councilmember Gamble?
Aye.
Council Lady Hurt?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Councilman O'Connell?
Aye.
Councilmember Roden?
Aye.
And Councilmember Young?
Aye.
Okay. I have 11-4. That would leave 0 against.
Chair, did you call my name?
You're on Transportation Committee, and I'm sure Councilman O'Connell is going to be calling you in just a minute.
We'll be doing it. It's a joint committee, council member.
I got excited.
Okay.
We appreciate your enthusiasm, and we will be with you presently.
Did you want to take your vote now, Councilman O'Connell?
All right, and so I think we'll finish up the bill in your committee, and then we'll bring it over with the amendments to mine.
Okay. Councilmember Cash, then you're up for your discussion of the bill.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions and suggestions. I'm really excited about this bill. As in my neighborhood, before I was on council, we got we were fortunate enough to get one of the walking districts, and I think it really helped. I guess I want to ask the administration, and I don't know that there's anybody from Metro Police on the call, but I don't want us to just do this and say we've done this and then there not be any follow-up to enforce. Like, I really want us to make sure that we are slowing cars down and not just changing the speed limit. So I want to know if there have been any discussions, or if the administration will, I guess, agree to kind of talk to the police department about this change and making sure that there are some opportunities for enforcement so that we really can kind of get used to, this is a lot of streets, and we need to get these drivers used to a reduced speed limit. And I think some enforcement is going to be a part of that. So I guess I want to ask the administration and possibly the sponsor, and Public Works, if there's been any discussion so far, and the administration, if they will have a discussion with Metro Police going forward to encourage the importance of some enforcement.
Anybody want to take that?
Raising my hand.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Hey, thank you, Chairman Nash and Chairman O'Connell, and thank you, Councilman Cash, for the question. Yes, we have reached out to the Metro Nashville Police Department when the legislation was initially referenced, and then again when it was filed. I note that Captain Chris Gilder is on the line, and Chairman Nash, if you would recommend or recognize him, I think he may have a comment or two regarding the police department's role and interest in enforcement mechanisms after adoption.
Captain Gilder?
Yes, sir. Thank you. As Mr. Jamison said, we've been in touch with the mayor's office about this change, monitoring it, and obviously would, if it passes, educate the officers on the change in the speed limit. We work closely with community groups all the time. Our precinct commanders do, regarding issues that they're seeing. And, when there is a need to conduct targeted traffic enforcement in certain neighborhoods to address issues, we do so. So this would, we would simply continue to follow that strategy of trying to target those areas where we're having issues, and obviously use this change in the ordinance at that time.
Does that answer your question, Councilman Cash?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I do have another question for Public Works, if I may.
Okay.
Okay. When Hillsborough West End got their walking district, one of the things that Public Works did as part of that was to paint the speed limits on the pavement of the roads. I know that is an expensive thing to do, and we are changing a lot of roads. However, I would hope that we could look at the possibility of painting the speed limit on some of these roads, especially, like Council Member Henderson referred to, how many neighborhoods are applying for traffic calming and how few actually get it. Maybe some of the ones that are, the data shows that there's a need for something, but they're not quite qualifying for the traffic calming grants. Maybe some of those streets could be more open to painting the roadways with the speed limits. So if I could just ask Public Works, is there a policy or consideration for painting the speed limit on at least some of the roads?
Mr. Hammond?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Painting the speed limit on the pavement is always a tool in the toolbox, but that will remain one of those tools. We don't have any plans to put back all of those that are out there today. Obviously, they will have to be changed, and whether we black those out or whether we just modify that, to reflect the new speed limit, hasn't been decided, but suffice it to say that will remain a tool in the toolbox, and we would look at data to support that. You know, these have typically come in locations where we just need to reinforce that message for one reason or another. And one of the great things we think about doing this in a systematic way and changing so many speed limits across the county in one fell swoop is that there's that expectation, there's a consistency there, and maybe it minimizes the need to reinforce that with more expensive treatments like those pavement markings.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome, Brother Cash. Council Lady Gamble.
Thank you, Chair. It just dawned on me. How does this affect state roads? Because Brick Church Pike is a state road, so that would not be included in, I guess, in this legislation. Is that correct from the sponsor or anyone?
Anybody answer that?
Mr. Chair, I can take that one too, if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond.
The short answer to that is no. There are no state routes that are classified as local streets. This legislation is specifically targeted towards local streets, and that has a very special meaning. Those are mapped. Those are defined by the planning department in the major collector street plan. So your state routes, such as Brick Church Pike or any of our major pikes or the busier, more major roads, whether they are state or not, are identified as collectors or arterials. In any case, they are not locals, and so the speed limit on those streets would not be affected by that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Director Hammond. Thank you, Council Lady Gamble. Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you so much, Chair. My question is for Captain Gilder. If you can, like on any given day, how many officers do we have just patrolling the city?
It's going to depend by precinct because the precincts are different sizes, and so they have different amounts of staff. But I would say, you know, on an A detail, you could have anywhere from as little as, you know, maybe 4 officers or 5 officers at Central Precinct, which is very small, upwards to 10 or 12 officers at, say, West Precinct. So then that's just dedicated patrol officers. Obviously, we have other groups like community engagement teams and traffic division personnel that are conducting countywide traffic enforcement. But as far as assigned to a particular detail, that's about the size range.
Okay, so for the targeted traffic enforcement, how would that work if you're in most precincts? I don't want to speak for the operations of other precincts, but just most where I live, if the calls for service are prioritized by I'll just say by importance. Where does the targeted traffic enforcement falls within that? Because neighborhoods have requested it, and sometimes the response is due to high calls for service and prioritizing those. Targeted traffic enforcement isn't always possible.
Yes, ma'am. So a couple of things. If it's assigned to patrol, a lot of times what will happen is the officer that's assigned to that particular zone is going to be asked, hey, in your spare time, in between those calls for service, this is what we'd like you to do. We'd like you to be in this area looking for people running stop signs or speeding or whatever the concern is that's coming from the community. But the precinct commander also has the option of reaching out to the traffic division and requesting assistance from traffic cars and motor officers to conduct that targeted enforcement as well. And those cars are not subject to calls for service. They do sometimes respond to crashes and fatal accidents, but they're not subject to answering, domestics and calls for service like that.
Yeah, I just want, for many that's probably listening and watching this, I don't want the general public to see this as a total solution for speeding, because there's other variables as it relates to this, and the police is a critical component of it. But that delivery of service for targeted speed enforcement in various neighborhoods is based upon one, where you live, and two, the calls for service that your particular precinct handles also. So I just wanted to say that. I don't want neighbors to say, we've lowered the speed limit, now the issue is solved. That's all I had, Chair.
Council Lady Allen. Council Lady Allen, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm fumbling for my mute button. I apologize. I was just going to say that there is a committee that is looking not only at the lowering the speed limit, but at Vision Zero, which is reducing pedestrian fatalities to zero as part of the goal, and that we have also had the discussion about working with coordinating with the police to let them know where signs are being changed so that they can provide that support at that same time. So that's it's coordinated at many levels, and I think that's an important part of making it be successful.
Thank you, Council Lady Allen. Council Lady Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand the intent of the reduction of the speed limit, but I don't think that it's going to solve anything. I think that the problem is really about enforcement, and enforcement with a lot of things we have is the problem and the key. And it all goes back to our police department, which is already understaffed. And I would rather see them do things that is much more critical than someone going 5 miles more than what they were to go last year. And I don't know if the fatalities that we have from pedestrians has been caused by speeding. And I also think that this is something that the citizens should answer. I believe that if you spoke to the lion's share of our citizenry, they would not want the speed limit to go from 30 to 25. I think it's expensive. I think the lion's share. I understand some of you may not know that, but and maybe it's where one lives. I think it's expensive to change the signage. I think that it's expensive to utilize the police more for trying to cut down the reduction in speeding when they don't do it anyway. If you got a problem of drag racing, I don't see people going 5 miles over the speed limit worse or equal to that of drag racing. And I would rather see them address drag racing than this 5 miles speed limit difference. To me, it just doesn't seem like it's really worth the effort that it's going to take to try to enforce such a policy. Just my take on it. I'm not a traffic expert, but just my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor here. Councilman Roten.
I'm sorry, Chair, that was left over from previously. I apologize.
Okay, Council Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. To Council Lady Hurt, I just want to respond, if I may. The fiscal note for this is $85,000. All the work is going to be done by staff on a corresponding with our quarterly brush rotation. So the cost on this is very low. To Council Lady Hurt's point, it isn't just the signs. It isn't just a roadway. Part of the Vision Zero approach is it does have speeding enforcement as part of that. To the earlier question, I mean, people speed all over this city with impunity. We don't have appropriate kind of staff. Speeding enforcement is somewhat of a fraught issue. People right turning on red, and I would just kind of put it out there for colleagues. You know, one of the things is we talk about LPR and you know, is unbiased speeding enforcement potentially. So you know, if you speak with our precinct so often, to Mr. Gilder's point earlier, it's just they don't have sufficient staff to do the enforcement. But I also want citizens to understand, you know, there's never intent to drop the speed limit for the purpose of, you know, enforcing the speed limit and tickets and so forth. There really is, Council Lady Hurt, good data and evidence that many cities who have already made this change do see less speeding and safer roads. So there's objective data that shows that it helps. You are right, it won't help everywhere. And it isn't just about the number on the sign, but it's a big and important piece of the puzzle. So thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady Porterfield.
Thank you for recognizing me, Chair. Since I'm not on the committee, I'll be very brief. I wish I had the data in front of me, so please forgive me that I'll be speaking a little vague because I don't have it in front of me. But I do remember last year when I was first elected to council, there was a presentation, and maybe Councilmember Henderson may remember this a little bit better, or may be able to speak to it. But we did receive a presentation early on around that time, and they were talking about the impacts of reducing the speed limit. And one thing that really stood out to me was the increased chance that if a pedestrian is hit, they're more likely to survive the lower the speed is. So even when it was just being reduced by 10 miles per hour or 5 miles per hour, the rate of survival significantly improved. So I do agree with my colleagues in that, you know, this by itself is not going to solve the problem, right? I think we know that it will have to happen in tandem with enforcement. It will have to happen in tandem with traffic calming measures. But I believe that this is just one tool in our toolbox to help make our pedestrians safer and to help make our streets just a little bit safer. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to bring that up, Chair. And if anyone has that information, I think it will be beneficial to share. Thank you.
Thank you. I've just been notified by the Vice Mayor that we have to stop at 6:45. So I guess I'm asking, unless there's just really something very poignant or different in the conversation, we might want to go ahead and vote on the bill. Without any objections, I'm going to call for the vote then. Council Lady Henderson.
Aye.
Council Lady Allen.
Aye.
Council Lady Benedict.
Aye.
Councilman Bradford.
Aye.
Council Lady Evans.
Aye.
Council Lady Gamble.
Aye.
Council Lady Hurt.
Begrudgingly, aye.
Councilmember Nash votes aye. Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Roten.
Aye.
And Councilmember Young.
Aye.
Any other abstentions, changes, minds, zeros? Seeing none, it's 11-4 and 0 against. Councilmember O'Connell.
Great, thank you. I think what we'd like to do, we have a very small committee, and we've obviously had a lot of discussion here, being mindful of the clock. What I'd like to try to do is see if we don't have discussion on the amendments, I will try to do this Mr. Cooper style and just run through and see if there are any dissenting votes on either of the two amendments, and then possibly consider the same approach on the bill. So could I get
Chairman?
Somebody from, yeah, sorry, Mr. Cash.
I'd like to move Amendment 1. This is Councilman Cash.
Great. Can we actually move? I think we have to move the bill first, and then we start.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I moved the bill.
All right, and can I get a second?
Parker seconds.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Parker. And Mr. Cash, back to you for amendment.
I move that we approve Amendment 1.
All right, can I get a second on that?
Parker seconds.
Parker seconds. And then what I will do is just say we will run through this and see if there are any dissenting votes, but otherwise we will, I've got Chair, Nash, Cash, Vercher, and Parker all as yeses. Are there any dissenting votes or negatives to abstain? All right, hearing none, we will consider Amendment 1 approved, and we will move on to Amendment 2. Mr. Cash, I'll turn to you again.
Chairman, I'd like to move Amendment 2.
Mr. Parker, you care to second again?
Parker seconds.
Great, and we'll do the same thing. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will try. Oh, wait, sorry. Councilmember Henderson, is your hand up on an amendment? No, great.
Apologies, Chairman.
No problem. Please let me know if we have a dissent. Otherwise, I've got Chair, Nash, Cash, Parker, and Vercher all as ayes on the housekeeping amendment. Okay, seeing no dissent, we are now ready for a vote on the bill as amended. We've got it moved, seconded, and as amended. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. The only thing I will say as chair, by way of discussion here in response to some discussion from the other committee, is if you have not had the opportunity to spend any time in Nashville's walking districts, we are regularly, as a family, in the walking district in Hillsborough West End, and the reduction of speeds there is noticeable. You do occasionally see people still driving at the old speed of 30 miles per hour, but routinely speeds are down to 25 and under, where there is 20 miles per hour on the pavement. And to Councilmember Porterfield's point, this is a tool in the toolbox. It's an important tool. It is data driven. It is safety focused. And I think to Councilmember Henderson's point, it can't be overstated enough. The cost benefit on this for a fiscal note of only $85,000 will turn out, I think, to be extraordinary. And my hope is that in a combination with a variety of Vision Zero tools that are coming down the pike, we should see a reduction in pedestrian deaths instead of the increase we have seen over the past several years. So I'm looking forward to seeing this pass. All right. Would anybody care to be recorded as anything other than a yes vote from the Traffic, Parking, and Transportation Committee? I am not seeing any hands, so I will just roll call this real quickly. Chair is an aye. We've got Cash, Nash, Victor, Parker. Anybody need to vote no or abstain? All right, the bill is recommended as approved by our committee. Thank you, Mr. Nash, and I think everything now returns to Public Works.
Thank you, Chairman O'Connell. Let's see what we might be able to do quick. I have a consent agenda, the last three items on page 3. Bill number 2021-598 relocates a public fire hydrant assembly for property located at 517 Dr. D.B. Todd Jr. Boulevard. That's by Taylor, Murphy, and Nash. BL 2021-599, Swope, Murphy, and Nash accepts a new sanitary sewer main and one sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 5661 Valley View Road. And then I have Bill 2021-600, Cash, Murphy, and Nash relocates a public fire hydrant assembly for 3 properties located at 1207 Sweetbriar Avenue. Do I have any objections to those 3 being on the consent agenda? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll go through the roll call for the consent agenda. Henderson.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Benedict.
Aye.
Bradford. Evans.
Aye.
Gamble.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Nash votes aye. O'Connell.
Aye.
Roten.
Aye.
And Young.
Aye.
Okay, any other nays, yeas? Seeing none, consent agenda is passed 10-4-0 against. First item on the agenda is, we did that, let's find my pages here. Is bill number 2019-8 by Robert Henderson, Tunes and Styles. I did receive a message from Council Lady Roberts' text earlier that she was going to withdraw. Is she on our call?
This is Council Lady Roberts. I am on the call.
What would you like to do with your bill?
So I would like to withdraw it with a brief comment.
Okie doke.
And I realize
make it very brief. We're running way behind.
I realize that, and I will make it brief. And so, after a lot of time of talking about this and deliberating over it, we just concluded that this timing just isn't right. I think after redistricting, some tweaking, I think this will make a lot more sense and have the impact which it was intended to have. And with that, I would like to withdraw it.
Okay, Council Lady. John, if I'm correct, we don't have to take any action since it was withdrawn?
That's correct.
Okay. And last but not least, this got a lot of discussion in budget and finance. I'm hoping maybe we can have a little less discussions and approve it with a referral back to committee is what was done in budget and finance. It's bill number 2021-597, Parker, Toombs, Murphy, Nash, Van Reese, and Syracuse approves a participation agreement between Metro Public Works and Monroe Infrastructure LLC for the construction of public infrastructure of phase 1 of River North.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval with a re-referral to this committee on third.
Second.
Thank you. And a second, is there anybody who wants to weigh in on that motion? I see Council Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Nash. I think that as often happens sometimes for us, the split as far as what we've discussed, kind of the finance side of this was discussed at length in budget and finance. So my questions were really very particular to the streetscape and the cross sections that we have been provided. So my questions are really about the infrastructure. And so I wonder if Councilman Parker could speak to, like, I'm looking at Waterside Drive that has, 11-foot travel lanes with sharrows for bikes. Bikes aren't separated. Waterside seems to be a kind of a core central road there. I don't see any bikeway infrastructure on Cowan. I see some internal roads that are 12-foot wide travel lanes. I'm not sure why Metro is putting in 12-foot travel lanes in new kind of supposedly ideal streetscapes. And so I do have some kind of technical questions. If we're going to spend $13.8 million on this infrastructure, I think we should hold ourselves accountable that it's designed to the best standard possible. So I don't know if Councilman Parker as a sponsor can speak to that, and if he thinks those can be addressed between, those concerns can be addressed between second and third with the re-referral.
May I be recognized, Chair?
Go, Mr. Parker. Yes.
Thank you. So the cross sections that Councilmember Henderson referenced are on page 18 of your amendments packet, where the proposed road network is detailed, and I especially following our discussion about traffic calming from the speed limit reduction, we always sort of have this, should we lower the speed limit and then we need enforcement? I mean, the most resource efficient way to reduce pedestrian collisions and to reduce speeds is to design roadways in a way that encourages it. And the NACTO standards, there's a ton of supporting literature for narrower lane widths. And I'll just say that one of the really appealing things about this project is that it's kind of a clean slate for us. It's a blank slate. I think we've got one shot to get it right. And as it's presented in this legislation, I don't think it's right. I'm being very, very brief because I know that we're on a time limit here. These lanes should be considerably more narrow. You should not combine bike and pedestrian lanes in the way that it's presented on one of these streets. And I'll turn it back to the committee because I know we're on a time limit here.
So I think what I heard, there is more discussion going on the design, and you'll get with Council Member Henderson or have the architects get with her to maybe address some of those concerns. So the administration do that?
I'm working directly with Public Works and with some of the private enterprise stakeholders on this project. You know, I don't think that I haven't found any major opposition to revising this, but you know, the amendment was not prepared in time for this meeting. You know, I think that maybe it could be ready for third, but if it's not, I have a feeling like there's going to be intense pressure there to not defer and to not wait to get it right, both from the administration and from the lobbying folks that are backing this proposal. So I'm a little bit concerned about just kind of, you know, just ushering things along like this.
And I think, Chair, if I may, just to extend my question, that was kind of my question to Councilman Parker is, does he feel, based on the conversations that he is scheduled to have and the previous conversations that he may or may not have had particular to the cross sections, does he feel between with the motion at present, which is a re-referral to the committee on third, I hear you saying you're a little skeptical or wary, but do you think within that 2-week time frame, again, you know, I would encourage sponsors, people working on this, to communicate with Councilman Parker. It's in his district. He understands it. Nobody needs to get in touch with me specifically. But do you feel, Councilman Parker, that you can have that addressed within, you know, and I will just say publicly, if it's not addressed to Councilman Parker's satisfaction, when it comes back to us third, I won't vote in favor of it. So, and I would hope that we as a committee, if we care about this kind of infrastructure that we're investing in, that we should all hold that line as well. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
I can speak. I mean, we have a meeting scheduled Thursday with Public Works officials and I think administration folks and some of the private enterprise people involved in this project. You know, I don't know what's going to come of that meeting. I hope it's productive, and I hope that we can get an amendment filed.
Well, I suspect we'll hear about it on third reading, and we have a chance to vote yea or nay again if this motion passes. I don't see any other hands, and we are already 2 minutes over the time limit. So without objection, I'm going to ask for the vote. Henderson.
Somewhat reluctantly, aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Benedict.
Aye.
Bradford.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
Nash votes aye. O'Connell.
Aye.
Roden.
Aye.
And Young.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, I have 10 for and 1 against. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry about the rush. We all know we're working under some different timelines tonight. Thank you so much.